lecture. So, but fortunately, we have him here today. So I asked Maharaj to give an address. So before that, let me introduce about from Apathananji. Maharaj joined monastic order. That's short. Okay. He joined monastic order in 1989, and after that he was there in 13 years. He was there in Bangalore Center of Ramakrishna Mission. Then he shifted to Belur Math, and he traveled a lot of places. Then he from 2004 to 2016 he was in Chennai Math, and for 12 years he was a guide for Vivekananda Study Circle at IIT Madras. He used to conduct regular classes for them, and after that he became a monastic instructor at Belur Math. And since 2018 October, he became secretary for the Ramakrishna Mission in Kanpur. And since then, he comes every week, every Saturday to IIT Kanpur to give a meditation class. We are very privileged for it, and I guess now we'll start.
Thank you, Venkat. He said he has asked me to speak. Of course he did, and that was at 3:30. And so I had very little of any preparation. We just heard a heartfelt talk, a talk from the heart about Karma Yoga. We are celebrating Swamiji's birthday, so it's very appropriate that we are discussing Karma Yoga. So I will briefly say a few more things about Karma Yoga, which he felt that I should say, and also say something about Swamiji and youth, because his birthday is celebrated as National Youth Day. In 1984, the UNO declared that year to be the National Youth Year. And the next year, in 85, the Government of India declared 12th of January as National Youth Day, and that is Swami Vivekananda's birthday, which was made the National Youth Day. So you just heard about Karma Yoga and Kalyananandji's story. I was a little late, so I regret that I could not attend the first part. I was stuck with the metro traffic. And you also heard Swamiji's some famous anecdotes. It's very inspiring. Swamiji was called a Yogeshwara, one who is filled with yoga of all types, all the 4 yogas. If those of you have seen and remember the logo, the emblem of the Ramakrishna Mission, you would remember that there is a circle represented by a snake, and there is water, there is a lotus, there is rising sun, and the swan. These 4 or 5 things actually represent 4 yogas. So Swamiji wanted that all the yogas must be harmonized in one's life. So the rising sun represents the Jnana Yoga, because Jnana always means light. Then you have the flower, that is the lotus, that represents devotion, bhakti. The bhakti is often, you offer the Pada Padme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. So you offer the flowers to the Lord. Then you have the water. Water represents karma or Karma Yoga, because in action there is always movement. There is turbulent water. It's not serene water which is represented there. Then you have got the snake around it, which represents the Kundalini Shakti or the Raja Yoga. So you have the Raja Yoga, you have the Karma Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, and the Jnana Yoga. Swamiji says that these 4 represent the 4 faculties the human beings have. So karma is basically the faculty of will, how you employ your will, both to do something and, as we discussed, to withdraw yourself once you have done with it. The second part is more difficult. The first part is very inspiring, that we take up something. Swami Vivekananda gave a small little lecture called Work and Its Secret. It's very poetical, besides being extremely insightful. So there is a passage which is very poetic. He says there that we came like a honeybee. Honeybee wanted to suck the honey, but its feet got stuck. It's not able to come out. That's the kind of state which most people have when they want to taste the fruits of their success. So Swami Vivekananda said that these four faculties, the Karma Yoga represents the willpower, the Bhakti Yoga represents the emotion, or today's word you have got the EQ, the emotional quotient. Then you have, but that is most of the emotions are directed towards the world. So there are people who have given their best to the world and they are full of disappointment. Love is one such word. It's a very heavy loaded word, though everybody thinks that I am loving. It's not easy to love. I remember a small little book, even booklet by Erich Fromm, The Art of Loving. In the beginning he says that so much has been sung about the disappointments that come because of love, and yet nobody wants to solve the problem properly. So is love an art, or love is something that you fall into? He also says, why not rise up? Why fall in? Fall in love. Why not rise up? So he discusses at length the phenomena of love. So when this emotion is directed towards God, it becomes Bhakti Yoga. That of course he doesn't mention, but see, Mirabai says that I want such a husband who will never die, which means she wants God. So that's how she gives her life to that. Then you have got the Jnana Yoga. Now there are two types of jnana, though there are within the two types the first one is having innumerable types. So the first type is the objective knowledge. So you have the Science Institute here, you have the science related knowledge. But then you have arts, which is no less a knowledge. Many times people relegate it, but then art is no less a knowledge. And somebody was mentioning, I am quite ignorant, but then somebody was mentioning, I thought I'll quote it here. Just now it came to my mind. He said, in days to come, the artificial intelligence will take over so much that all automation will be controlled by the robots. So people will actually look for the people who can draw, who can paint, who can do creative things. Because automation is taken care by machines. So we will ask, do you know how to draw, come up with a new painting, new color scheme? So that requires creativity. So you have the jnana, which is about the objective world. And the Upanishads say, yes, dve vidye veditavye paracha aparacha. Mundaka Upanishad says that. There are two vidyas, knowledge of the objective world and knowledge of the self, who we are. Who we are. That's an important question. Anything else we can find in Google, but not who we are. Even if the Google answers, that will not help us. Because the Upanishad says, once you know yourself, you will be free from any form of suffering, especially the mental suffering. He says, one who knows the self is freed from fear. Shokam tarati atmavit. Chandogya Upanishad says this. So you have the Jnana Yoga, knowledge of the self. You analyze yourself, but only analysis will not help. You have to see that your mind is made pure, Then only analysis will be very, very meaningful. So you have the Jnana Yoga, which is related to the faculty of knowing, then faculty of will, faculty of emotion, the faculty of concentration, which is Raja Yoga. And in the midst of that, you have got a Hamsa, which represents the self. Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. So by combining all the four, you actually know the self. That's what Swami Vivekananda kept the ideal. Of course, he laid a lot of emphasis on Karma Yoga. And I'm happy that people have heard a talk on Karma Yoga, and quite a beautiful talk as to preparation which he referred to. What is the preparation required for Karma Yoga? For doing anything, the first preparation is that you want to do it, that you are interested in it. So are you interested in it? So why should I be interested in it? Because you have got enough experience of both success and failure, and you don't feel happy with not only, you don't feel happy with failure, but you don't feel happy with success also, because every success seems to have a shelf value. So somebody becomes very big in terms of success, some achievement, some attainment, so he gets some fame, so maybe he gets an award, maybe a very big award, so you will get some appreciation, and that's a few days. After that, again you have to get up in the morning, you have to carry on your day, you have to carry on yourself, life. You can't be carrying your award all the round and showing everyone, look, I am having the award. So it has a shelf value. And after you are gone, one of the famous Dadasaheb Phalke awardee, his award was found sold in a Raddiwala shop because the family could not afford it. So I'm not saying that one should not be honored. We should honor the right people. That's very necessary for a society. But that cannot be the goal of life, because man's desire for infinite happiness can't be quenched by anything else. So first thing is that I have come to that situation. There is a verse about it that's again from the Mundaka Upanishad. I will not load you with too much of Sanskrit, but since it comes to my mind, maybe you should have the ability to listen it. It's very beautiful. The first sentence I'll say, Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmanam nirvedamaya nasti asti kritena sa gurum eva abhigaccheta samitpanihi. So gurum eva abhigaccheta shrotriya brahmanishtam. Now this one verse actually contains the answer to why should I take up Karma Yoga, or by that way spiritual life in itself, or spirituality itself. So the simple meaning is this, that a person has first examined the happiness available in this world of attainment. Pariksha lokan. He has examined. Now what is the meaning of examination? He experiences it. And yet at the end of it he finds that it has given him satisfaction, but it has not made him fulfilled. He still is in need of something. So pariksha lokan karma chitan. From the karma, whatever success can come to you. By the way, it's not just sufficient that we should be able to face failure. We should also be able to face success. They say you should not take success to your head and failure to your heart, because it creates problem. If success enters the head, so we know what happens. A person loses all moral track slowly, because he thinks he can break any limits, no moral issues, because it has gone into his head. And the one who has taken this to his heart, failure, he becomes depressed, and he thinks now life has come to an end, And unfortunately, there are people who really put it in physical world. So they say, I have failed, now nothing can be done. They close down all the doors. They say, no windows are open for me now. So that's very unfortunate, but that's the reality of today's world. So first is that karmachitan brahmanam nirveda maya nasti asti kritena. Such a person cannot seek the highest. So karma yoga is first of all that interest. And the second is, I would suggest from a very practical angle, please read Swami Vivekananda's book, Karma Yoga. It's a masterpiece. One of our monks told me he has read it 25 times. And he said, God willing, I'll read another 25 times. There was a monk, Swami Shuddhanandaji. He was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. He had memorized all the works of Swami Vivekananda. Memorized. He said, that's my tapasya. So that's a remarkable book containing just 8 lectures. You can download it. It is available on the net. Karma Yoga is a remarkable book. Then you have got the interpretive books on that. We have a little book which is more like a manual by one of our monks who is in Boston, Swami Tyaganandaji. He says, Walking the Walk, a manual on Karma Yoga, which is also very insightful. Then one of the directors of IIT, Dr. NVC Swami, he wrote a small book based on his experience called Notes on Karma Yoga. That's also, he has put in from another perspective. Another book is by one of our very revered Swamijis, Swami Bhajananandaji Maharaj, who is there in Belur Math. He says the selfless work, its meaning and philosophy, what it means, from a very philosophical angle. So these books can help you like a guide to practice Karma Yoga to begin with, like a manual. And there was some reference to what is the meaning of freedom that we are speaking of at the end of it. So because Swami Vivekananda also spoke of Atmano mokshartham jagat hitayecha, for one's own freedom or liberation, Atmano mokshartham, and jagat hitayecha, and for the good of others. So these 2 things he said, the twin ideals of modern age. Irrespective of who you are, what you are, you should take it up as the ultimate ideal for your life. So there the question comes, Atmano mokshartham. What is moksha then? So what is bondage then? If you are speaking of liberation, you should know what's bondage. So I'll just put it in very short, as it is given in our scriptural tradition in Vedanta. It says, it's like a formula. Avidya, kama, karma, janma, punarjanma. That's it. In short, it means this. We are trying to understand a reality about ourselves, a mystery about our life. So people have tried in different religious traditions to follow it. Now in Hinduism, what they have tried is, first there was an undivided reality which alone existed. Then for no reason or beyond our understanding, it decided to, as if, multiply itself or segregate itself into small units. In Sanskrit they call it ekoham bahusyamaha. Now why, we do not know. You are happy, you sit, why did you decide to become many? It's decided to become many. So the moment you said I become many, so there are fragmentations, and the fragmentation means a sense of lack. I lack something. So that's called avidya, sense of lack, sense of not being complete. From avidya comes kama. Kama is desire. Avidya, kama. Now once you have kama, the nature of kama is it has to fulfill itself. Once you have a desire, it has to find objects, it has to look for the situation, circumstances to fulfill itself. So that's known as karma. Avidya, kama, karma. And from karma what will happen? Karma phala. And from karma phala, what is the biggest karma phala? Janma. That you will be born. Oh, is that all? No. You will work out your actions and you will work out your desires. In the process you will create new karmas. And then again punarjanma. Then sukha and dukkha. Again sukha will come, happiness and unhappiness will come. But you will be born again because you have still not worked out your all desires. Once you are done with all your desires, then no more rebirth. That's called moksha. No more rebirth. So all this is a huge, philosophical thing to build upon. So this is not the time to discuss that. But only this is so freedom means this, that I come out of this cycle. So how do I come out? Yoga. The 4 yogas. And the key of all the 4 yogas is detachment. Anasakti. Asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. 15th chapter of the Gita it comes. So as he very rightly said, that inner fruits, the fruits which I seem to enjoy at the psychological level. Oh, I am very much wanted now, I am famous, I am a sought after speaker, etc., etc. All these desires which are capturing you within are also going to bring with them their unhappiness. Because anityam asukham loke prapya bhajasvaman. This word is anityam by nature. Anityam means temporary. You see, you have a very famous actor, wonderful. So he is at the peak of his performance, wonderful. Then aging happens. Most young people don't factor in aging. So anyway, aging happens. Then another one actor is born, who also is very good in acting. Then people say, he acts like him. And after some time, he becomes so famous, they say, who is that earlier actor? I mean, that's the nature of life. Fame. So Shankaracharya says, Ma kuru dhanajana yauvana garvam, harati nimeshat kala sarvam. Harati, takes away. By whom? By kala. What? Ma kuru dhan, then jana, yauvan. These 3 things. Money, people, and youthfulness. We are celebrating Youth Day. But I am speaking of something different. That youth also is a state of your body. You ask an old man, he says, yes, I was also young. So this also will go. This is the nature of this body. So point is, don't get proud of it, and rather make the best use of your youth in becoming wiser, in developing these virtues, and also being an instrument of good to others. So for that you will have to, take care of yourself. And this is the time, youth is the time when you can do best. Because as far as your growth is concerned, you have to go to the peak of your body-mind growth. Now you will have the decline. If you study neuroscience, etc., you have a lot of references to what happens in brain after a certain time and all that. So point is, Swami Vivekananda's teachings, if a person takes up deep into his heart, right when he's young, it has got a definite transformation or transformative influence on his mind. And basic teaching is what he said, that somebody asked Swamiji, what's your message? He says, my message is, it can be put into a few words, and that is how to express the divinity present in every one of us, in every moment of our life. So divinity means our own goodness, our capacity to do things, So the more we are able to put these two into practice, the more nearer we are to Swamiji's teaching or trying to follow him. So I'm very happy that today we had this opportunity of listening, and thank you for calling me and saying a few words. So I hope on this day all our friends who are present here will take up Karma Yoga book. Why only that? Further, more of other Swamiji's books. I hope you have brought some books with you. So there, one booklet will be given to all Swamiji's teachings, and I'm sure that's the right way we can celebrate Swamiji's birthday. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj, for giving us a beautiful message of Swamiji. I request Swami Atmasiddhanandaji and Professor Trilochan Shastri to take a sapling from Vivekananda Samiti as a token of honor. So we conclude day 2 of the lecture series. Tomorrow again we meet here again for day 3, our lecture by Professor D.P. Mishra. And we have few books of Karma Yoga and a few books of Vivekananda, Call to His Nation. If anyone is interested, they can take. So we have meditation class every Saturday going on. If they want to join from this week onwards, they can write their name in that paper. Anyway, we will send a mail through Dean of Student Affairs after some time. So we conclude this day.